47 years. That's how long the Islamic Republic of Iran has gotten away with it. 47 years of hostage-taking, funding terror, chanting "Death to America," and targeting U.S. troops with impunity. It was the ultimate gaslighting campaign on the global stage, and America's leaders just kept taking it. They'd negotiate, they'd appease, they'd sign a nuclear deal that dumped pallets of cash on the regime. And for what? More aggression, more attacks, more American blood and treasure on the line. Well, buckle up, because that era ended the moment Air Force One touched down and a new one walked into the Oval Office. This is the story of the promise made and the promise kept. This is the moment Donald J. Trump looked at 47 years of unchecked Iranian aggression and said, "Enough." The America First doctrine wasn't just an economic policy, it was a security guarantee. The unbreakable promise was simple. If you target American citizens, if you kill American troops, you will pay a price so severe you'll wish you never even thought about it. This wasn't about nation building or spreading democracy. This was about raw, brutal, and decisive protection. The world's policeman was clocking out, and the world's bodyguard was clocking in. Then the red line was crossed in the most brazen way possible. December 2019. A rocket attack orchestrated by Kataib Hezbollah, an Iranian proxy, rains down on a base near Kirkuk, Iraq. An American civilian contractor is killed. U.S. service members are wounded. The intelligence comes in, ironclad, tracing the command and control straight back to Tehran. The response was not a memo. It was a message. U.S. forces launched precision strikes against 5 Kataib Hezbollah facilities across Iraq and Syria. The Pentagon called it defensive strikes, but the tone was offensive. It was a warning shot across the bow, loud and clear. The free ride is over. The proxies are an extension of Iran's arm, and from now on, we will treat them as such. The regime in Tehran was furious. They screamed about violation of sovereignty. They threatened retaliation. But for the first time in decades, an American president had actually hit back, immediately and without apology. The America First doctrine had its first major military enforcement, and the world was watching, especially the ones chanting "Death to America" in Farsi. But the mullahs, drunk on decades of getting away with it, didn't know how to read the room. Or maybe they thought Trump was bluffing. They decided to double down, to escalate in a way they thought was safe, hidden behind layers of deniability. Their next move was straight out of the terrorist playbook. They organized a violent protest at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. But while the world was focused on the embassy siege in Baghdad, a political bomb was about to detonate back in Washington. It started with a whisper, a digital ghost in the machine. A source, deep within the Pentagon's labyrinthine server system, began leaking. And not just any leaks. These were the crown jewels of operational secrecy, landing in the inboxes of a handful of journalists at the Washington Post and the New York Times. The first tranche was the kill shot, detailed, time-stamped operational plans for a proposed U.S. military strike inside Yemen, targeting a high-value Iranian-backed Houthi commander. The plans included coordinates, proposed aircraft loadouts, and even a casualty probability assessment for civilians in the area. This wasn't a generic briefing slide. This was the raw, pre-decisional playbook. And according to the metadata and internal routing codes, these files had been accessed and forwarded from an account linked directly to the office of the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegth's office. The next dump wasn't documents, it was screenshots, blurry but devastatingly clear. They were from a private encrypted messaging group. The participants? Pete Hegth, using a personal phone number, and 3 prominent national security reporters. The timestamps showed the chats happened during the tense 48 hours following the Baghdad embassy attack. The tone was shockingly casual, deeply cynical. In one exchange, a reporter asked, "Is the boss really going to greenlight the Yemen op? The blowback will be insane." Hegth's alleged response was, "He's off the rails on this one. Thinks it's a 2-for-1 to own the Iranians and look tough. The Joint Chiefs are having kittens. It's a disaster waiting to happen." In another, he seemingly confirmed the authenticity of the earlier leaked plans, adding context the documents alone didn't have. See the footnote on page 4? That's the real number for collateral. They're lowballing it by half. A school is within the blast radius. This wasn't just a leak. This was a full-blown, running commentary. A sitting defense secretary was allegedly gaslighting his own commander-in-chief's decision-making process to the press, in real time, while a potential military operation was on the table. The word treason started getting whispered in the halls of Congress before the stories even hit the front page. And when they did hit, it was a political earthquake. The headlines were brutal. Defense Secretary leaked strike plans to press. Hegth in unauthorized chats bashed president's judgment. The White House was caught completely flat-footed. So the political earthquake hits. The ground is literally shaking under the White House. And where is the man who allegedly caused it? Where is Defense Secretary Hegth? He's in the wind. He's gone full ghost protocol. The morning after the headlines drop, every camera in D.C. is pointed at the Pentagon's river entrance. They're waiting for him. The press pool is hyped, ready to scream questions about treason, about leaks, about putting a school in a blast radius. He never shows. Instead, a bland junior press aide sends out a one-line email. The secretary's schedule has been adjusted. He will be working from a secure location today. A secure location. Translation: he's hiding. He's dodging. He's treating the free press like a bunch of door-to-door salesmen he can just ignore. But Congress? You can't ghost Congress. At least, you're not supposed to. The Senate Armed Services Committee, smelling blood in the water, immediately fires off a subpoena. They want Hegth in front of them, under oath, next week. They want to know, in excruciating detail, who he talked to, what he leaked, and why he thought gaslighting the president's national security judgment was a good career move. His office's response? Radio silence. Then, 48 hours later, a letter from a team of high-priced lawyers lands. It's 10 pages of legal jargon that boils down to 2 words: executive privilege. They claim the president's confidential communications shield him from testifying. The problem? The White House hasn't invoked executive privilege. And then, the ultimate Karen move. 3 days after the scandal breaks, a lone photographer catches Hegth. Not at the Pentagon, not at a secure location, but leaving a high-end steakhouse in Georgetown after a 2-hour dinner. The man was avoiding congressional subpoenas and the press corps, but he wasn't skipping the ribeye. When the photographer shouts, "Mr. Secretary, do you have any comment on the leaks?" Hegth doesn't even break stride. He just looks straight ahead, gets into his black SUV, and it peels away. No comment, no accountability, just the silent treatment. For the American people, for the troops. And that's where this stops being a political drama and starts being a deadly serious operational security nightmare. Let's break down the commentary. The alleged leak wasn't about some budget line item or office gossip. It was about a potential kinetic strike. The location, the timing, the collateral estimates, these are the crown jewels of operational security. Revealing them doesn't just embarrass the president, it telegraphs to the enemy exactly what we know, what we're planning, and what we're willing to risk. Think about the troops on the ground, or the pilots who might have been sent in. So here's the brutal POV shift. You have a former president, Donald Trump, who, for all the media noise and the constant chaos narrative, ran a foreign policy that was actually defined by one thing: unpredictability as a weapon. The enemies didn't know what he'd do. He pulled out of bad deals. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He brokered the Abraham Accords, actions that had concrete, strategic outcomes. The world's bad actors were kept off balance. Operational security was treated like the sacred thing it is, because at the end of the day, the calculus was about American strength first. Now contrast that with what we're seeing unfold in real time. The alleged leak from the Biden White House wasn't a slip of the tongue at a cocktail party. According to sources familiar with the matter who spoke to several outlets on background, this was a deliberate disclosure of classified operational details concerning a potential military action. The timing, the location, the estimated collateral damage, These aren't talking points. They are the blueprints. Handing them over, whether to the press or through back channels, isn't politics. It's a betrayal. It's the ultimate inside job. Think about the sheer cognitive dissonance. On one hand, you have an administration that lectures everyone on democratic norms and rules-based order. On the other, you have what multiple defense analysts are now calling a catastrophic breach that directly endangered assets and potentially cost lives. Where's the accountability? The press secretary gets up there and does the word salad. She says things like, "The president has full confidence in his team, and we take all matters of security seriously." It's the political version of a customer service Karen saying, "I'm sorry you feel that way." It's gaslighting on a national scale. The internal betrayal is the real story here. This isn't about left versus right. This is about the permanent Washington bureaucracy, the swamp, versus the country it's supposed to serve. A source within the intelligence community, speaking anonymously for fear of reprisal, put it bluntly. This is what happens when ideology replaces patriotism. The goal isn't to win anymore. The goal is to manage the narrative, even if it means burning the playbook and everyone in it. And let's be clear about the national security fallout. This leak didn't just give our enemies a heads up. It gave them a gift-wrapped intelligence bonanza. It confirmed our sources and methods. It showed them our red lines, or worse, revealed that we don't have any. Every ally who shares intelligence with us is now recalculating. Can they trust us? Or will their secrets be the next to leak onto the front page to make a political opponent look bad?